Hi again, everyone. I'm Ollie Matthews. This is the Narcissistic Resistance, and this resistance video is sponsored by contribution from Virtue Fern. And here's her story. Dear Ollie, hope you're well and you and Charlene and the kittens are enjoying spring summer in Florida. I'm interested in your opinion on whether my adopted father was an enabler or a covert narc, and any other insights you could provide, as I'm still not clear on his part in my abusive upbringing. My background is my adoptive mother was a malignant sadist narc who ruled the entire family at large and not just our nuclear unit. She was the easy one to work out. She was just pure evil. I was adopted to these people in the 60s and went no contact 20 years ago. Best thing I ever did. It was a difficult time, but so worth the peace I found. They are both dead now. Thankfully, their ability to abuse finally over. Now I still have to deal with the inner trauma that they caused because of their cruelty. I have a golden child adoptive sister, and I'm still no contact with her. She is the trained narc, and I have very low contact with the rest of the family. Originally from Australia, I now live in London, UK, so this alone is a natural barrier to what's left of my adoptive family, thankfully. From what my from what adoptive mother told me about my very early years, my adoptive father became my main caregiver, as he was the only one who could stop me crying when I was a tiny infant. He would hold me and pat my back until I fell asleep, but if he moved, I would wake up and cry. In years later, this story was always delivered by my adoptive mother in an accusation manner, as if I had done something wrong. Typical narc. She was so obviously jealous of me and the bonding relationship we were actively developing until she worked to drive a wedge between him and me. No one could be better than her. Jealous bitch, you know the drill. She was a stay-at-home mom, and I was on my own with her for many years before my adoptive sister arrived. Once she arrived, we were triangulated at a very young age. It's weird, I have almost no memories of playing with her when I was growing up. It was almost as if it was almost as if I was as only as I it was almost as if I was an only child, but it kind of suited me, as I didn't really like her anyway. I know my adoptive mother abused me quite viciously in my formative infant years, as she thought she could get away with it. I suffer from CPTSD and experience flashbacks to proverbial somatic memories of being choked, dragged around the house by my arm, being put in the backyard, and left to my own devices for hours on end, along with the usual slapping, verbal, and projected venom which spewed from my adoptive mother's insipid, evil mouth. May the bitch rot in hell. But you know, Ollie, there was always a method to her madness. She did most of this abuse to turn her husband against me. She worked to make me act up so he would eventually hate me for misbehaving. So that's the background about her. But it's him I really want to focus on. He confuses me, and he is the one I'm more angry with. Don't get me wrong, what she did is unforgivable, but I don't fully understand his reason for all his abuse. There is something underlying this, and I know from experience, the more you can understand about what you suffered through as a child, the more you can let it go. I think it's important to mention here he was born in Ireland and emigrated alone to Australia. Once here, he had little contact with his Irish family. The adoptive mother took over any contact, writing letters to them regularly. He showed no interest in them at all, which makes me wonder why he left. I feel he probably left a trail of abuse behind him. But here are my red flags concerns about him, and I'd like to know what you are going to say. Already want to hear your experienced opinion. One, he told me he never wanted to adopt children. When she was unable to have children naturally, he was happy to leave it at that, but she forced him to adopt. He never said forced, but I knew that's what he meant. Her grandiose dream was to be a perfect mother, and she could not fail, which is why would get kids in her hands no matter what she had to do. There are some serious questions about the legality of my adoption. Two, once she forced him to go along with her adoption plan, his only demand was that he would not ever consider adopting any boys, but he would only adopt girls. According to him, girls were less important. Three, he would tell me I was ugly, and because of this, I would never get anywhere in life, and he would deliver this heinous blow in a father-daughter heart-to-heart talk, adding the last minute, I was not like my sister who was beautiful. I so obviously threatened him in some way. This one is a red flag moment still with me. I dodged the sexual abuse bullet with him, but what about his beloved golden child? Am I reading too much into this? I really don't know. I don't know either. I mean, see, narcissists will hurt you for, they use your looks against you. It doesn't necessarily mean it's sexual. I mean, it's hard to say with what you're giving me. I think it's clear he definitely didn't want children, and he did it to make your mother happy. And why he would want girls over boys, because girls are easier. I think in that time you could always marry a girl off where you had to raise a son. I think that's what that Irish. And oh, he's Irish. He's old Irish. So yeah, let me tell you something about old Irish. Girls have very little value with Irish, especially old Irish. It's all about son, 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 son. So if he's a self-hating Irish boy, he probably hates himself. He hates boys. He doesn't want anything to do with. So that's what he's saying with girls, because in his culture, in Irish culture, girls are back then less important. Everything was about spreading your seed and having a son and carrying on the name. He didn't care about it. He did it to make her happy. Four, it was like he had no interest in the family unit. He also had absolutely no life outside his menial job. He had no friends of his own, no hobbies, no interests. The only other place, if he felt accepted, was his job, a male-oriented environment. Mostly he worked 7 days a week. He basically worked your stereotypical Irish male life. Hates his life, hates his wife, at work. That's the typical Irishman. That's your stereotypical Irishman of that time. Yes, as a family, we were financially comfortable. There were never any money problems. Even when we went on extended summer family vacations at the beach, sometimes for up to 6 weeks, he would abandon us to go back to his job, only joining on the odd weekend to help pack to come home at the conclusion of our holiday. This would happen every year. He was the classic absent father, even though he could get the holiday leave. He just didn't want to be around you. He didn't want to be a part of the family. He didn't want any of it. He would beat me every few months. He would totally lose control when he did, like it was my fault, and I know it was to seek the adopted bitch's approval. As far as I know, he never did this to the golden girl. When he beat me, I knew he truly hated me. They both lied about birth and adoption, and I only found out when I was 32 years old. After this, he admitted to me he had abused me throughout my life, but seemed to be proud he had not sexually abused me. He never apologized for the other forms of horrific abuse he put me through, and I know I'm expecting a lot for these dysfunctional idiots to apologize for anything they did, but shit, it would have been nice. In fact, he laughed at me once for not catching him out regarding my adoption truth. He thought it was funny I was so gullible. Shame, he was far too stupid to know the difference between trust and gullibility. Stupid, dysfunctional man-child. That's exactly it. It doesn't matter what they do to you. You're not even human to them. And being adopted, it was just like you're like another pet. He never wanted kids. I left my young son and my daughters with him for one day while I ran some errands. And when I returned, I was told by my daughters that my adopted father had given my son a beating. I confronted him about it, and his only defense was my son was being difficult. My son is not difficult, and he was and still is an amazing child and adult. He has never once been difficult. He has never beat up my girls, to my knowledge. Listen, the second he laid hands on your son would have been the last thing he ever did. He has rage issues. He likes hitting kids. He likes hurting kids. I mean, comes from him probably being abused as a child. 8, and I guess this last one is the kicker. When I was 35 years old, when I went no contact, one of my last memories I have of him was at a small informal family party. The kids were all outside playing, and the adult conversation turned lighthearted to sex. Nothing insipid or dysfunctional, just some banter, joking and laughing amongst adults. Then out of nowhere, my adoptive father says, "Sex? I don't know what the fuss is all about. It only takes 5 minutes." You could hear it pin drop. Seriously. Yeah, because he's your typical Irish slob. They were both alcoholics. Just blowing up every stereotype, huh? No big news here with these dysfunctional narcs. They would both be falling out of their chairs at 10:30 p.m. most nights. Probably the reason for his above statement, too. I really think I know where this analysis is going, but I would really respect your opinion. Anyway, I would like to say I'm grateful for your channel. You and all those who contribute have helped me out of some of my more darker moments. Your insights into adopted children and the narcissistic experience is uncannily correct. We were pets. I used to say when I was a small child that they treated the family dog better than me. You are spot on the money. Keep up the great work. Always a supporter. And as I am an artist like Charlene, I would love to see some of her work. All the best, Virtue Fern. And she actually put a post, a link. And I'll put the link to her art website in the description box as well if you'd like to check that out. Now, your father is a couple things, stereotypical Irish, that Irish pride, that typical. But again, it's another example of narcissists adopting children as pets. Somebody who, obviously, your father had no business adopting anybody. Okay? He's obviously just was in it for your mother, who's just a miserable woman to begin with, who was just adopting children as pets. She got her golden child with your daughter. And I think adopted children are even easier to abuse because there's no blood relation. I really believe this, that these narcissists can abuse their child because it's not theirs. And what's even worse is he beat your son that he has no blood relation. Like, it's crazy. Like, no. I mean, I know that was years and years and years ago, but even still, like, they respect nothing. And it's even more so, the narcissist already has no boundaries in regards to you, but when you're the adoptive pet, and there's not even a blood boundary, there's not even that somewhere in the back of their mind that this is my flesh and blood. Bad, 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 bad news. So thank you for your contribution. Thank you for your story. I hope that helped, gave you some insight, and you enjoyed it. Thank you to everybody watching. Please leave any opinions or advice in the comment section below. And again, if you'd like to be part of the resistance and submit your story for the channel, if you'd like a topic you'd like me to cover, a narcissist you'd like to expose, or you'd like to set up a Skype chat, phone call, Facebook chat, or have a private video made, or you'd even like to sponsor a video for someone who can't afford one, or just sponsor the channel in general, you know what to do with the PayPal and email links in the description box. And if you're still unclear, check the instructional video link that pops up at the end of this video to walk you through all that. Please like and share this video wherever you can. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't, and be sure to click the subscription bell to be notified of all my video uploads. I'm Ollie Matthews. This has been the Narcissistic Resistance. Bye, everyone.